So today is the auspicious anniversary of Guru Purnima, when Vyasadeva is worshipped by the different sampradayas. It's Vyasa Puja. And thank you. It's also the disappearance anniversary of Srila Sanatana Goswami. And Narottam Das Thakur has written a song, Lamentation Due to Separation from the Lord and His Associates. And Sanatana Goswami is mentioned in the song, so it seems particularly relevant today. So this is the mood Narottam Das Thakur had when thinking of the association that he was deprived of when they went back to Godhead. Ye anilo premadana karuna prachor Ye anilo premadana karuna prachor Eno Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Eno Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Kahamora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kahamora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kaha Dasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kaha Dasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kahamora Bhatta Yuga Kaha Kavira Eka Kale Kota Gela Gaura Nataraj Pashani Kutibo Mata Anile Pashibo Gauranga Gunera Nidhi Kotagele Pabo Se Saba Sangira Sange Ye Koi Lovilas Se Saba Sangira Sange Ye Koi Lovilas Se Sangana Paya Kande Narottamo Das Se Sangana Paya Kande Narottamo Das Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jai Vaishnav Thakur. Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jai Vaishnav Thakur. Sanatana Goswami ke Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Prabhupada Sotar Sata Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Prabhupada Sotar Sata Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Shri Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who is filled with compassion and mercy, where is such a personality as Srinivas Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where's Sanatan? Where's Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? Where's Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees, in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps.
Prabhu, if you use the other microphone, it will be less noisy.
Can anybody cooperate with Tapas in that regard? Thank you, Tapas. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, Chapter 1, Activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. I believe we're in verse number 23. Big long script, prose, whatever. I won't chant that. So we'll just go to Srila Prabhupada's translation. Following the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Maharaj Priyavrata fully engaged in worldly affairs, yet he always thought of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are the cause of liberation from all material attachment. Although Priyavrata Maharaj was completely freed from all material contamination, he ruled the material world just to honor the orders of his superiors. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ke. The words Mana Vardhano Mahatam, just to show honor to superiors, are very significant. Although Maharaj Priyavrata was already a liberated person and had no attraction for material things, he engaged himself fully in governmental affairs just to show respect to Lord Brahma. Arjuna had also acted in the same way. Arjuna had no desire to participate in political affairs or the fighting at Kurukshetra. But when ordered to do so by the Supreme Lord Krishna, he executed those duties very nicely. One who always thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord is certainly above all the contamination of the material world, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatinantaratmana shadavan bhajate yo mam sameyukta tamomataha. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Bhagavad Gita 6.47. Maharaj Priyavrata, therefore, was a liberated person and was among the highest of yogis. Yet superficially, he became the emperor of the universe in accordance with the order of Lord Brahma. Showing respect to his superior in this way was another of his extraordinary qualifications. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 6.17.28, Narayana parasarve nakutushana bibyate swagapavarga narkeshu apitu yarta darshina. A devotee who is actually advanced is not afraid of anything, provided he has the opportunity to execute the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the proper explanation of why Priyavrata engaged in worldly affairs, although he was a liberated person. Also, only because of this principle does a Mahabhagavat, who has nothing to do with the material world, come down to the second platform of devotional service to preach the glories of the Lord all over the world. Could we please pray together? Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri-Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shiva Shakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kopatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 A devotee who's actually advanced is not afraid of anything, provided he has the opportunity to execute the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's something to be afraid of, not being able to engage in Krishna's service. It is our identity. It is our greatest wealth, our greatest good fortune. Why do you think the Vaishnavas are so very much against merging into Brahman? To be deprived of the opportunity to engage the purified senses in the service of the Lord. Who would want that? Even if it meant you were getting some temporary cessation of the miseries, the constant lashes of this material energy upon the mind and body. What Vaishnava would want that? No Vaishnava. That's why the verse was quoted. You know this verse? Oh, he left. Mystic cities. Do you know this verse, Narayana Pura? Hey. Don't be a creep enough.
Narayana Prasarvena Kutaschana Vividi Svarga Pavarga Narakesu Apito Yatha Darshana.
Heaven or hell? Heaven doesn't sound so bad. But actually for the advanced devotee it's a little scary also. I should say a neophyte who's making some advancement. Prabhupada, upon not hearing of the details of Jayananda Prabhu's passing away, said if you didn't complete your Krishna consciousness, then you can do so upon arriving in the heavenly planets. You can be given that opportunity. But we know, just from our experience in this world, that when we get the easy street and things are going our way and things are so nice, that it's very easy to lighten up, to slacken in the determined service of the Lord. It's the nature of the conditioned soul, even the conditioned aspiring devotee. Hell, holy smokes, who wants that? To hear of some of the punishments, the unceasing punishments that take place in the lower hellish planets. And yet, one devotee said that Srila Prabhupada said to him, I'd like to go preach Krishna consciousness in the hellish planets. Can you imagine? Therefore, A Mahabhagavat has nothing to do with this material world. And for the service and pleasure of Krishna, he will go anywhere and he will do anything. As far as his own personal needs or desires, let them be damned. As the Brahmin said, fie upon our Brahmanhood, fie upon our Shastric knowledge, fie upon our performance of the yajnas. Our wives are running to Krishna. And here we are, trembling in fear of King Kamsa and holding back. Not going to surrender to him, not going to serve him. So Maharaj Priyavrata and all the great Vaishnavas, the Lord, his associates, Lord Caitanya, they all show us the example. Today is the anniversary of Guru Purnima. You're going to want to hear this one. This is the anniversary of when Vyasadeva is worshipped. And from my understanding and reading of Chaitanya Bhagavat, yesterday was the anniversary of Lord Nityananda's appearing in Navadvip, reuniting with Lord Caitanya. We say reuniting because they're eternally brothers. But it was the first time they were reuniting in the manifest pastimes. Oh! What a joyous reunion. The heart of Nityananda, who had been feeling the separation and waiting as patiently as he could until Lord Caitanya manifested the Sankirtan Leela. Was he able to come and be with his eternal Lord, Master, brother, and friend? And Lord Caitanya, the devotees, they went to where Nityananda Prabhu was. What was the name of the house of the Prabhu? Everybody goes to hide there. Nitai. Nandanandana. Nandanacharya. And he said, after all the ecstatic reciprocations and glorifications of the Bhagavatam to show the exalted nature, the consciousness of Nityananda, his love for Krishna and Chaitanya, Lord Caitanya said, tomorrow is the anniversary of Guru Puja. Where would you like to celebrate your Vyasa Puja, Nityananda Gosai? And he looked and he pointed out Srivas Pandit. He said, I'd like to celebrate in his home. Lord Caitanya said, oh, Srivas, this is a great responsibility placed upon you. Are you up to the task? He said, yes, my Lord, I have all the necessary paraphernalia. We can perform it very nicely. Haribo! So then the devotees, along with Lord Caitanya and Nityananda, they all went to Srivasa's house and they had kirtan until late into the evening. Adivas kirtan, they call it. Purification of the consciousness and the atmosphere for the performance of worship of Vyasadeva. So Srivas had the picture of Vyasadeva. He had all the paraphernalia, basically like we've been shown by Srila Prabhupada. I remember that pastime in Tokyo when they went there. He went to save Burijan Prabhu and his wife who were struggling. He said that, I specifically came to deliver you, to save you. And it was his Vyasa Puja, Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja, Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja. And the next day, it was like, even though there was a couple of sannyasis and leaders there, they didn't quite have it together and know what to do. Srila Prabhupada was not happy. Senior men and you don't know what to do? So he very upset. And it was the next day that they properly observed his Vyasa Puja there. This ceremony of Vyasa Puja cannot be overemphasized. To connect soul to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada is what we wish. May my only desire be to be totally attached to the words emanating from his lotus mouth and to follow those words. With Srila Prabhupada, the person, with the principle of Guru coming through disciplic succession, Vyasadeva being the embodiment of that, certainly Nityananda Balaram, the Adi Guru, servitor personality of Godhead. So important. Srila Prabhupada told Prajumya Prabhu, who had an erratic schedule often because of his translating and work, helping Srila Prabhupada with his books, often stayed up late into the night and would not get up for Manga Artik. And he told him, if you don't make anything else, you must come to Guru Puja. Very important. So that night, Nityananda Prabhu, he spent the night at Srivas, and that's where he would take domicile for some time. As Lord Caitanya began the Sankirtan movement, first nourishing the devotees who had been suffering so much, seeing the ignorance of the conditioned souls of Navadvip, so puffed up with their education, their wealth, their position, their birth, not having any interest in devotional service at all. Nocturnal kirtans in Srivasa's house. Well, that first night, Nityananda in his ecstasy, he had his sannyas danda. He had his kamalandu, his begging pot, his bowl for bathing, washing, whatever it may be. And he broke them both. When Ramai Pandit woke up, the younger brother of Srivas, and saw what had happened, he immediately told Srivas, he's broken his sannyas danda. It's Kamalandu. And Srivas told his brother, immediately go tell Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who came immediately. Lord Nityananda was restless in ecstasy of love of God. We understand from the pastime of Lord Chaitanya's danda being broken by Nityananda, he was saying, you don't need this. You're the Lord. Sannyas is just, it's beneath you. You may, for your pleasure, engage in this pastime of setting the example for others what sannyas dharma is. But please, let's get real. He broke the danda and he threw it into the river. Lovely pastime. I won't go into it because of time. We also want to talk about Sanatana. I don't remember if it was the night kirtan. I think it was in the evening. Lord Caitanya, to show the exalted position of Nitai, became absorbed in the mood of Balaram. And he sat upon the deity's throne, the altar. He started calling out, Nitai, bring me my club, my plow. And Lord Nityananda came and gave them to him. Only a few fortunate devotees could see the actual giving. Others just saw Nitai extend his hand to the Lord's hand. Then he started calling out, bring me wine! Varuni! Varuni! They were bewildered what to do. No wine in the shelves at Srivasa's house. So they had Ganga water and they brought it and gave it to the Lord. And the Lord drank and drank and drank. Eyes rolling in intoxication. Showing the devotees Nityananda is Balaram. The next day when the Lord had come, seen the situation, he said, let's go take bath, Nitai. They went to the Ganga, they took bath. Lord Nityananda's restlessness and transcendental ecstasy continued. But Lord Caitanya, he, and he alone, could control Nitai. Nitai would listen to the instructions of Caitanya. He said, come Nitai, let's go. Let's observe the ceremony. So Srivas performed the Vyasa Puja ceremony, and it was finally the crowning, ending act of worship to take a garland and offer it to Vyasadeva, saying his pranams and glorification to him. So he gave that honor to Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu held the garland, and he stood around looking, kind of mumbling incoherently. And Srivas went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he said, he's not, he has the garland, he's supposed to garland Vyasadeva, but he's not doing anything. So Chaitanya went to him and he said, Nitai, go garland Vyasadeva. He immediately placed the garland on Lord Caitanya. When he did that, Lord Caitanya exhibited a 6-arm form, Sadbhuja. And Nitai fainted in ecstasy. Lord Caitanya told the devotees, it's interesting, he woke Nitai up, brought him back to external consciousness by this glorification of him. He said, without the mercy of Lord Nityananda, you'll never get any love or devotion for Krishna. Without the mercy of Lord Nityananda, you'll never get my mercy. So in this way, this is the anniversary of a wonderful pastime of Lord Caitanya on Guru Purnima. Now we have Sanatana Goswami, who certainly exemplifies a devotee whose mind was always absorbed in the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. He, Rupa Goswami, their brother Anupam, great devotees of the Lord. The first two of Krishna and Anupam being of Lord Ramachandra. And then you had the son of Anupam, Sri Jiva, and they lived in Ramakeli. They had the service, we heard not too long ago, of how they were ministers to the Nawab Shah, the emperor of Gaudadesh, and how Sanatana Goswami didn't want to continue on. His brother had already retired. He got out while the getting was good. And Sanatana Goswami, he just kind of, it's almost as if he was acting in denial. He associated with the Brahmins and listened to scripture. So much nice scripture. Of course, the essence of all scripture, the greatest of all scriptures, if all other scripture was lost and the Bhagavatam remained, Srimad Bhagavatam, then there would be no loss for the world. Well, Sanatana Goswami has this very nice verse from Sri Krishna Lila Stava, glorifying the Bhagavatam, which he was hearing and chanting. My only constant companion, my only friend, Guru, saw, wealth, that which has delivered me, my great fortune and the source of my good luck, the form through which I taste pleasure, my obeisance is to you, Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, the king came. He sent his doctor first saying, oh, he's calling in sick. Go see what's wrong. He saw there was nothing wrong with him. He was absorbed in studying the scriptures, the Hindu scriptures. And so the Nawab came and Sanatana basically said, I'd like to tender my resignation. What? You're trying to destroy my kingdom and all my desires? I'm getting ready to march upon Orissa to conquer the kingdom of Orissa. He said, well, I know your activities will be one of destruction of the temples and the deities of the Lord, so I can't accompany you. Well, come back to work. I'm sorry, I can't do that either. He became so furious. And Sanatana said, you're the independent ruler. You have every right to punish me as you wish. Do as you see fit. And he put him in prison. I've been to that prison in Ramakeli. Very special place. It's non-different from Vrindavan. That's where Lord Caitanya met Rupa and Sanatana. He'd taken sannyas. When he took sannyas, they thought, oh my God, we'll never see him. Because he had left Navadvip. Navadvip wasn't that far from Ramakeli. So they had hope. Someday we'll see Lord Caitanya. Their obligations had kept him from doing so. So he met them there, gave them advice, as he gave Raghunath Goswami. The wife who has a paramour performs her duties even more perfectly. Carry on, remembering Krishna, the lotus feet of Krishna, and everything will turn out all right. So, anyway, when he took sannyas, he came to see Mother Sachi and the Ganga at Shantipur, and Ramakeli's not that far away. So there he went to Ramakeli for bestowing mercy upon Rupa and Sanatana. So that's what really lit the fire with him. It wasn't all that long afterwards that the ball became unraveled, and Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami being supplied money by Rupa, tens of thousands of gold coins, was able to buy his way out of prison. And he and a servant Ishan, they started headed to Vrindavan, Mathura, because they heard that Lord Caitanya was going on pilgrimage there. And you know the story of the inn, where just like Viramvir, the king, he had his astrologer, so he would know when there would be wealth coming through with the pilgrims and attack and rob them. So this innkeeper also had an astrologer. And he said, these people are wealthy. So he started treating them like royal guests, like really special. I suppose to induce them to let their guard down. His intent was to kill them and rob them. Sanatana Goswami, being so very intelligent, he asked his servant, are you carrying money? Because he'd asked him, let's go, bring nothing. He said, yes, I'm carrying 7 gold coins. And Sanatana Goswami, oh, this will be the death of us. So he immediately went to the innkeeper and he said, I have these gold coins, please you take them and assist us to get over the mountain range so that we can proceed onwards to Mathura. Show us the way. So long story short, he did that. He met his brother-in-law, who was raised horses, captured horses, sold horses, etc. Srikanta was his name. And, he had brought nothing, and so he gave him a wrap, a blanket, so that he would have something to cover himself with, protect him from the cold. It was a very beautiful blanket, very high class, very nice. So anyway, Sanatana, he sent the servant home, understanding that, he said, do you have any money left? He said, well, I have 1 coin. He said, okay, take that coin, go back home. I won't need your service anymore. He met Lord Caitanya in Varanasi. Outside the home of Chandrasekhar, he was sitting there. He must have heard that's where Lord Caitanya was staying. And Lord Caitanya asked Chandrasekhar, he said, go outside. There's a great devotee out there. See, bring him in. So he went outside and he saw this person, big beard, long hair, this blanket. And he came back and said, no, there's no devotee there. There's just some Muslim out there. He said, no. Bring him in. And the reunion with Sanatana and Lord Caitanya is so wonderful. So very wonderful. That's a point where Srila Prabhupada talks about, he asked him to shave his beard, make himself presentable, cut the hairs off his face and head. Yes, Make him gentle. And he also, because he must have had Muslim clothes on. Muslim, cultural attire. And he said, and find some new cloth so you can be presentable as a gentleman. So he got a used piece of cloth from Chandrasekhar and wore that as a wrap. And he realized Lord Caitanya wasn't so pleased with the blanket. He was giving up everything in the service of the Lord, and yet he still had this one very nice blanket. When he realized, Lord Caitanya sees this as an obstacle to my advancing, then he went to the bathing ghat. He found a sadhu who had an old blanket. I think it says tattered blanket. And he asked, would you please trade me? Of course, the sadhu thought he was teasing him. It was rather unkind. He said, no, I'm serious. Would you please trade me? So, of course, he felt he got the better end of that deal. And he went back, and Lord Caitanya was so pleased because he had renounced everything. And that's where he asked Lord Caitanya the famous question, Ke ami? Who am I? Who am I? People think I'm so learned. I know 5-6 languages. I was basically running an empire on behalf of the king. But I don't even know who I am. And why am I suffering? Please, my Lord, dispel my ignorance. And Lord Caitanya instructed him, being so pleased with him, on the science of the absolute truth. That's there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, definitely worth reading. Describing the constitutionality of the soul, of the devotee, and all the different forms and expansions of the Lord. Ages, etc. I forgot one line that really caught my attention with the Vyasa Puja ceremony performed by Nityananda. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that although Krishna Balaram, Gaura Nitai are eternally enjoying each other's association in the spiritual world, when they descend as different incarnations within the material world, they find their pastimes inconceivable. So it's ever fresh. So Lord Caitanya instructed Sanatana. He told him to go to Vrindavan. I give you Vrindavan, you and your brother, and I want you to propagate the cult of devotional service. I want you to excavate or find the lost sites of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and their devotees. So he went there and he did that. After some time, he missed Lord Caitanya so much, so he went to Jagannath Puri to have his company again. He got to stay with the Lord for a year. Sometimes, somebody asked me yesterday, stand up if it gets too challenging. Somebody asked me, how much time did you get to spend with Prabhupada? So a year. He'd see him every day. And he got to stay with Haridas Thakur. You only hear 2 devotees getting, to stay with Haridas Thakur, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. You don't hear anybody else. But the 3 of them felt themselves so lowly and so fallen that they were on the same page of Krishna consciousness. They were like-minded devotees, and they could relish the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the discussions of Lord Caitanya's glories and the Katha from Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. And so when he had come to Jagannath Puri, he traveled through Jharkhanda forest just like he had heard Lord Caitanya had done when he went to Vrindavan. But bathing in unclean water, not eating nutritious, sufficient food, he developed skin disease, open pores with, what do you call the pus that comes out, etc. Disgusting. And a nightmare for Sanatana Goswami is that Lord Caitanya continually embraced him. Could you do that? If there was someone you really cared for, or someone you knew was really advanced, but they had that, just like Jananivas Prabhu, he had some skin, whatever you would call it, something. I guess you call it like a, like that, like a virus kind of thing, where you get the patches and what have you. And Bhavananda went up to him and he said, "Do you still have that?" He kind of lifted his chadar. I should have said Bhavananda Prabhu. He goes, "Ugh! Take care of that, for heaven's sakes." Lord Caitanya didn't have that mentality at all. He embraced him continually. He was so happy to have the company of Sanatana Goswami. Well, Sanatana Goswami, he thought, I'm going to throw myself under the wheels of Lord Jagannath's cart come the Rath Yatra procession. I can't tolerate that I contaminate the Lord in this way. Lord Caitanya, omniscient Lord of the heart, next day he comes and chastises Sanatana Goswami. What are you thinking? You think that body is yours? I thought you gave it to me for my service. I have much service to perform through you. I want you to go to Vrindavan. I want you to propagate the cult of Krishna consciousness. And as I said, reestablish the Leela stans of Radha and Krishna and their devotees. He said, but my Lord, I can't tolerate it. You continually embrace me. He said, I'm like a father to you. You think I care that you have some little skin problem? He said, plus I'm a sannyasi. How am I supposed to differentiate between different types of bodies? What kind of sannyasi would I be if I did so? He quoted Bhagavad Gita verses, Pandita Samadarshana, etc. Dualities of the world. Plus, and most importantly, you're a pure devotee, and the Lord doesn't take seriously any, how would you say, defects with your body. And once again, to the horror of Sanatana Goswami, embraced him. But this time, after embracing him, he was cured of the skin disease. Then he left, and Sanatana and Haridas Thakur got to discuss the glories of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So there's so many things you can say about Sanatana Goswami. He was the elder brother of Rupa Goswami, so he was understood to be the guru of the Goswamis. They all offered their respect to him. He had so many reciprocations. We talk about Priyavrata, always thinking about the lotus feet of the Lord. I couldn't help but think of Krishna's instructing the gopis to do the same. See, this is Satya Yuga, and the process is meditation. So it's Bhakti Yoga, even though it's the medium of Astanga Yoga. But when Lord Krishna instructed the gopis, who were sold out, heart and soul, to service and the pleasure of Krishna, to meditate upon my lotus feet, meditate how this world is nothing but my energy and that I'm present everywhere, they scoffed, they chastised him. How can you do that to us? How can you insult us in this way? We simply want to please you as only we can in Vrindavan. So in the same way, Sanatana Goswami many a time had darshan of Krishna, the cowherd boy in Vrindavan. Many a time. One time it was just like, what's that? Madhavinda Puri. He got the milk when he was fasting. So Sanatana had gone off to one forest in Vrindavan, was there several days, absorbed in his bhajan, hearing, chanting, meditating on Krishna's leelas, took place there. And Krishna personally came and gave him some food stuff. Oh, you shouldn't have bothered. Why have you troubled yourself? No. And how did you know I wasn't eating? Oh, I tend to my cows, and I watch every day, and I see all you do is your bhajan. You're not eating. So please honor this. It wasn't until after he was gone and he honored the food that he realized, oh my, that was Krishna. And then, of course, you can't mention Sanatana without mentioning Madan Mohan. Jayatam surto pangor mama manda matergati matsarvasvatam bojo Radha Madana Mohan. Although I'm lame and ill-advised, the lotus feet of Radha Madana Mohan are my life and soul. So, Madan Gopal, ancient deity, carved under the instruction of the grandson or great-grandson, I forget, Vrajanabha, which he is. But Advaita Acharya found him when he went to Vrindavan on pilgrimage. Named him Madan Gopal and worshipped him. Made a disciple, a Brahmin in Mathura, and then gave the worship to him when he went back to Mayapur, Shantipur. Purushottam Chobe. And this person was so fortunate to be a disciple of Advaita Acharya and got the unreserved mercy of Advaita Acharya. Does anybody remember, for the younger devotees, what is the relationship of Advaita Acharya with Lord Caitanya? What is the rasa? It's parental. He's there from his very birth, and advice for Jagannath Mishra and Mother Sachi, etc., etc. Parental. Although he considers himself just a menial servant. But anyway, guess what relationship Purushottam had with Madan Mohan? Radha wasn't present yet. Parental. And he treated the deity like his own son. In fact, he had a son. And they would wake him up together. They'd bathe him. They'd feed him. They'd sit down and eat together. And it said that the Madan Mohan would go and play with the boy when he was out playing with his friends. Very exalted service. And yet there came a time when Madan Mohan revealed to that Brahmin, I want to accept the service of Sanatana Goswami. And as painful as it would be, just like Priyavrata, his first desire was not to take up ruling or managing the universe. When Narada Muni had set him on the path of the Paramahamsa ashram, simply absorbed in meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna, of Vishnu. But despite, this is what my son wants, this is what Madan Mohan wants, he took him to Sanatana. And Sanatana couldn't believe it, because how can I worship him? How can I serve him? No, I had a dream. This is what the Lord instructed. So he accepted. And we have the famous Pastimes. Srila Prabhupada tells it so nicely. That one day, Madan Mohan complained. He said, you know, you're just begging these rotis from the Vrajvasis, and there's not even any salt. It's getting a little old. Can't you get at least a little salt? And Sanatana Goswami said, what, salt today and ghee tomorrow? I don't have time going out to beg for extraneous, luxurious items for maintaining body and soul. He said, no, you have to accept. And Srila Prabhupada in L.A. gave that wonderful thing. In this way, the devotee controls the Lord by his love. That's what the Lord wants, is our love. He has everything else. He said the devotee should have the mentality, like I said, Rupa, Sanatana, Haridas Thakur, they all had the mentality. They were the lowest of the low. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, if you want to preach Krishna consciousness throughout the world, if you want to be empowered to preach Krishna consciousness, then you have to think yourself the lowest. And amongst all the Vaishnavas, you should consider and understand yourself to be last. Behind everyone, servant of everyone else. He said that is the mood in which the Lord will personally empower one. And Srila Prabhupada said we should always feel ourselves very low and fallen, and that we should pray to the Lord very sincerely that what I'm offering you is inadequate, coming from my rotten heart, my dirty heart, but I'm praying, please, please, out of your mercy, kindly accept it. Then he became choked up and he ended the lecture. This is the mood of Sanatana Goswami. This is the mood of all our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada included, and those who have been empowered. The moon-like followers and servants of Srila Prabhupada have the same mood. And hopefully someday, we get glimpses sometimes, but someday, hopefully we'll get realization of the dire need of our understanding our insignificant position, and that only by the causeless mercy of the devotees and the Lord will we be allowed to enter into the eternal service of the Lord. So are there any questions or comments?
One thing.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. You know, one of the pastimes you didn't tell was how Madana Mohan finally got his temple.
Yeah,
right?
Great pastime.
I always thought that because there was a lot of commerce going on the Yamuna, and there was this very wealthy salt merchant.
Yes.
And the boat was in danger of capsizing. I mean, it was a storm or something. And Sanatana Goswami, he knew the whole area.
It got stuck on a sandbar.
It got stuck on a sandbar. Okay, and he was able to guide him off of the sandbar and be able to dock nicely.
Will you let me insert one line?
You have to pray to Madana Mohan.
He said, I'm a beggar. What kind of mercy can I give you? What do I know about getting a boat unstuck from the sandbar? You should pray to Madan Mohan, which he did.
Oh, okay.
And his prayer to the Lord was, if you will allow my boat to be released from this sandbar, then I will sell all my goods, the salt. It's a big thing. We take it for granted, but it is a big thing. Salt. And I'll give all the profits for the worship of Madan Mohan for your lordship. And so sure enough, he went and he got a killing. He made a huge profit. And then he came back and he donated, and that was how Madan Mohan's temple was built. He became a disciple of Sanatana Goswami. And he even was given the service, the Sevite service of Madan Mohan. Yeah. Now you churn it.
I barely knew the pastime, but the thing that got me was the salt. He got infinite salt. He was looking for salt for his chapati, and the joke was he gave him a whole ton of this salt, boat, and he had enough salt for the rest of it.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. The pastimes of the Lord. Anybody else? Thank you, Dravida.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's kind of an arrogant question, but
It's a what question?
an arrogant question because I'm really unfamiliar with the vocabulary.
I'll try not to give an arrogant answer.
What is a pastime exactly?
Yeah, that's a good. That's no arrogant. That's a very good question. We all have to learn. The Lord doesn't engage in activities like you and I. We're forced to act by the laws of nature, the modes of nature, and we're bound by the reactions of those activities. The Lord, on the other hand, is completely independent and free. He's in complete control of the material energy. And everything he does is simply for pleasure and the pleasure of his devotees. So this word lila is translated into English as pastime. It's a pleasure pastime. Anything that the Lord engages in, and it even applies to the Paramahamsas, the Prema Bhaktas. Any and all their activities are pastimes, not like Priyavrata. He's not going to be bound by his activities or scorched by any contamination, although engaging in ruling the material universe. Does that make sense?
All that's going on in the spiritual world are pastimes. Just as you say, everything, Krishna has nothing to do. There's no duty for him. Everything he does is part of the play and engaging his devotees in play. And yet not a moment passes there. No time passes, yet all it does is pastimes. So we'll think about that today and we'll discuss it.
That sounds like a word. Thank you so very much, Prabhus. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Sanatana Goswami ki, Shri Nitai Gauranga ki, Guru Purnima and Sanatana.